Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Matthew Rose. I'm a captain paramedic with San Diego County Fire and CAL FIRE. I've got my start down here in Chula Vista as an intern underneath one Paul Maxwell, and worked for AMR on 414 off of Arizona Street for about 2 years, between there and 414, and then National City for about 6 months before I got picked up with CAL FIRE. My familiarity with this program that we're going to talk about today, ImageTrend, is I helped with the original kind of development back in 2017, and I've continued to help with testing and development when there's new protocols, new updates, anything that we have to adjust the system for. I kind of helped do this testing, and then currently we've been running a user working group, which I encourage everybody to be a part of. That user working group adds to the features that this product has available. The product itself has a lot of flexibility, and San Diego County EMS, when they built it kind of off of the old IQCS that they had, and they weren't using the features that were available in this software. And so that user group has been able to leverage us, the users, and get some of those add-ons into the program. And so one of my focuses has been that user group and being able to make this program work for us. Because the data that it collects is important for the agencies and the county, but being able to document on a call is important, and the way that we originally had it set up was just not user-friendly. If anybody has used this system throughout the history of the program, it's gotten better. So we've recently, you guys are coming on at a good time. We've recently made some new additions. We have a new administrator, and we've kind of made it more user-friendly. So I'm going to highlight some of those things today. I want to talk about some of the things we've learned while using it, and show you a little bit about the examples of some areas of the run form. First off, I work for County Fire, not County EMS. County EMS owns, operates, runs this program. I just help advise them and help work on the system. I'm not an employee at County EMS. So I'll give you my honest opinion. So hopefully everything makes sense, and this is informal, even though we're being recorded. If anybody has any questions, no, nothing too stupid, please feel free to ask. So some things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the LMS side of this, which is the licensing management. It's where everybody got their credentials for the county, registered as a user, created an account, and how that talks to Elite. There's some differences between the web version and the field version of Elite Field. And then we're going to talk about how to document in the PCR, and then how the most effective ways to do that are. And then how it's a dynamic form. Fields come and go and change as you click through the form. If it's a transport box pops up. If it's a cardiac arrest box pops up. Stuff like that. And then we're going to talk about how CAD will bring itself into the call, and then how the run populates and transfers to the base hospitals and to the receiving hospitals, and how that works. There's some terminology that we're going to cover is NEMSIS, National Emergency Medical Services Information System. That's that national repository and standard for data points. So every field, every section of a patient care report has a NEMSIS value, and we have to meet those points. From there, it goes to the state, CHEMSIS, and from there, the local level, the LEMSIS. Everybody can get more restrictive. They cannot be less restrictive. So as you go through it, you can ask for more stuff as the next regulatory body, but you can't ask for less. So National puts something out, they do an update, they do something new, everybody else has to kind of follow suit, and that's where we are. LEMSIS, the Licensing Management Portal, and how it's connected to Elite. Elite has the base hospital record, the PCR, which is patient care report, or patient care record, and those are within ImageTrend Web and Field. The report can be transferred or posted. They're different. Transferring it is taking some information and someone else, you're transferring it to someone, and they're downloading it into their record for demographics, vital signs, medical history, things of that nature. And then posting is like saving it to the website or saving it to to the base hospital nurses station, or I'm sorry, the receiving hospital nurses station. So they are different, and I'll talk a lot more about how those take place. For that licensing management portal, anything that you do in there affects Elite. So if you promote somebody to a supervisor, you have to do it on LMS, and then it takes effect into the Elite module. You change your password on one, it affects the other one. All the data points and having to document to that standard is a result of Assembly Bill 1129, which mandates all agencies to document NMSIS, ChemSys, and LEMSIS compliant data in real time to the LEMSA. So, and there's some 4 or so county policies that reflect that. So this is the umbrella of the program. It has that licensing portion, the Elite Web, Elite Field, there's Resource Bridge, and Patient Registry. They all talk to each other in some way or another, and if you change your password on one, it changes it on all of them. So it makes you change your password every 3 months or so, and it seems to always be the LMS side that does that for you, but everything can do it. So just remember that. Pick something that is a revolving password and able to be updated every 3 months or so. If you post something, it ends up in the Elite Web version of this site. And then when you're doing your documentation, everything should be in the field. You do not want to be documenting a run in the web version because that's web internet dependent. If you hit a dead zone or you drop, your device drops connection, you'll lose everything you did on the call. When you're on the field version, everything is cached to the device, and if you hit a dead zone or anything, it won't matter. And that's a big deal for our agency. We hit a ton of dead zones out there. So we need to make sure we're always in the field, which is that blue link that I showed you at the beginning, and always operate and document in there when you're on an emergency response. Hello.
Can you help with the Wi-Fi?
No, we're good. Oh, thank you. For Resource Bridge, anything that you post will update into Resource Bridge, and that gives like a PDF version for whatever receiving hospital you go to. They get a PDF version of the run form at the nurse's station. So as soon as you post it, so you can be en route to the hospital, hit post, and that receiving hospital, if it's selected as the receiving hospital, is going to receive a copy of it on their Resource Bridge and see what's coming their way. They'll be able to see any EKG information, any patient history, anything that you have in there, they'll have access to. Each post overrides the previous one. So anytime you post it, they'll get the most updated version of it. This also is what the MICNs use to talk to each other for bed availability, emergency diversion, bypass status, any type of internal disasters, alerts, anything like that. There's also supposed to be some outcome data in there. We don't get as much outcome data as we thought we were going to get from the system. We're only getting about 8%, and most of the outcome data we get is as a result of manual entry from MICN coordinators in the STEMI, stroke, and trauma registries. Our typical patients, we don't get outcome data on, although hopefully one day we will get outcome data on 100% of our patients. It's possible, it's just not there yet. So the Elite Field. Elite Field, you have to have a county accreditation to be able to access this. You have to be accredited in the county, and if you're not a provider, if it's like an agency reviewer or a biller, they could be added as well, but they have to submit an application to the county on the LMS side to be added. And then once they're added to the program, each agency you belong to has to make sure they roster you to their agency so you can document for Chula Vista Fire or whoever else you work for. If you have any issues with that, you contact an administrator. Your password gives you 20 attempts to guess your password. Don't take that many attempts. There is nobody on roster at County EMS that's sitting there waiting for you to forget your password. If you get to like 10 or so, there's a forgot password link right below. Use that. Because if you forget and you try 20 times and lock yourself out on Friday, you're not going to be able to document a patient care report all weekend. You're going to have to wait till someone comes back on 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, sees your email or your message, and then unlocks your account. So do not lock yourself out. Your administrators have no availability to correct that, but you get 20 attempts. Just don't get near it. Once you start getting up in the 10 range, okay, I forgot my password, use the link. They can tell you your username, and they can tell you what email you have on file with the county. So if it's some old email, AOL, that you had FireSlayer 29 or whatever from when you were in high school or just an Explorer, they can tell you what email it is, and then you could go in and change that later on if you need to. If you have any issues logging in, again, it could be if there's any issues with your account being registered in the county or accreditation, or if you expired. So if there's any investigation that came through or anything like that, or if your credentials expired, your access to this could be pulled. So make sure you maintain your accreditation. For interns, interns have their own accounts and can document for themselves as an intern to the appropriate level. So if they were an EMT for your program and now they're an intern, they have to go through this other healthcare provider application as an intern, and then they can select themselves as an intern, and that allows them to do things like IVs and medications and stuff, because EMTs cannot do ALS stuff in the program. So you can document for a medic, but you can't document as yourself doing the procedure. And you want your intern to document under themselves. We don't want to be sharing logins and passwords with interns and having them document as you, because they will then have access to everything you do, and we might not want that. They might be looking at protected patient information or doing stuff that we don't want to see. Plus, this allows your agency and the county to keep track of what interns are doing, what skills are doing, what is the preceptor doing, and what's the intern doing. This is what it looks like when you're logging in to the web version. It's gold around the outside. The field version is blue. When you're running calls, you always want to be on the blue. If you're going in to do like a fire report, or if you're going in to do any type of maintenance or your administrator, the gold side is fine. Just remember that it's internet connection dependent, and if you lose your internet connection, you're going to lose your whatever you've been working on.
Sorry?
Yes?
I apologize if you said this already. When you log into one, it logs into all of them, and you can toggle between the different colors, or how?
No, they're separate logins, but the login information is the same. Same username, same password, but they're all different URLs or web addresses. And the county website has a link to every one of those platforms there. So they're here, and then I would recommend saving them to your device so they're easy to get to the home screen as like a shortcut. And then if you don't want to be documenting or through the web version when you're running a call. And so this is just to know, like, if you accidentally click one, it will bring you into the wrong one, and you go, oh, I'm in the gold one, I should go something else.
So the start of every shift, when you're logging in, you've got to log into at least those two programs.
No, I would say just the blue.
Just the blue.
Just the blue on their way to the call. I would log in at the beginning of the shift, update my crew, and then just on the way to the response.
Okay.
And you're just logging into this one program. They just share the account information.
Okay. And the crew part is, and I apologize if you're getting to this. Or
No worries.
that you're adding them. It's not pulling from either your telestaff or
No.
telecommand or any of that.
No, unfortunately not. There is an ability for it to pull from a CAD token if your CAD is talking to a staffing program, and if all the stars align, then it could work. For example, Riverside is using it for us, but it's not the easiest thing to get set up, and they're the only ones I know that even have the ability to have their staffing program talk to their PCR program. No one else really has that going. No, absolutely, my pleasure. And I think Stephanie will address it a little bit when it comes to the fire reporting side, with how to see which fire reports are yours. For example, ours uses our employee number and will identify the infers report. But I think this might be different because we use a different server. We use the state and for infers. Same program, different server. So I have a different URL and all that stuff. But they don't necessarily talk to each other now. So when you log in, it looks like this. It starts loading, and it will sync the device. This updates it for any current updates from image trend, any personnel updates, or device or equipment updates. If you're on your way to a response, there's no problem on closing that. Close it, run your call, let it update later. Normally when I come in, I'll log in, update my crew. Oh, that's a couple slides away. I'll get to it. Update the crew, and I'll let it sync. And then that way, on the way to the response, this goes super quick. It's the longer the device has been offline, the longer this will take. But you can definitely run a call without updating it and then let it update later. It just won't be as updated for new features, functions, rules, crew, things like that. When you open this up, it's all HIPAA compliant, internal. It has a link at the top if the message was sent within a run for you to access a run and open it. If your administrators want you to say upload an EKG file to a call because you forgot to upload it. When you click this, it'll provide a little a dialog box, and it'll say, do you want to leave image trend field? It's going to take you from this field version to a web, and then it will have both open after you click through the inbox. And that's kind of a cheat or a shortcut way to get to the Elite website as well. But the messenger is great. We use it for the CQI a ton. We use it for talking with the hospitals. There's all sorts of things that you can use the messenger for, and it's all HIPAA compliant and has links to your PCR. So that is very helpful. You can also put attachments in them now. Some visual cues when you're in the program that you might be in the wrong one or the right one is it says Elite Field when you're on the field version and has a post button. When you're on the web, there's no post button and there's no field there. So this is if you're editing or maintaining a record. So I say I went in and uploaded that EKG they asked me to. I just need to hit save. I don't need to post it again or anything because I'm already on the server. I'm already here, so I just hit save. I'm good to go. When I come in, you open up the crew, log in your crew, update their role for the day. You can add as many crew members as you want. You can remove them. If there's just one or two people changing on, you can just click those one or two that are moving. The person that's dedicated as the primary care will get defaulted to doing everything. They'll be defaulted for doing your procedures, interventions, and vital signs. If it's somebody else, it's really easy to change. Whoever's listed as your crew here is going to be in the top of your crew dropdown, your crew selector, inside the run. So you're doing a vital sign, your crew selector is there. Whoever's here will be right at the top. And then any units that transferred a record to you, so if an engine, a Chula Vista engine, transferred the call to a Chula Vista box, the engine crew and the box crew will both be at the top of that drop-down list. And then everybody else in your agency will be in alphabetical order below that. You cannot select somebody from another agency. So if you run into Bonita, you can't say a specific person from Bonita did something, but you can say prior to arrival, and you don't have to say who it was that did it. The unit and call sign are typically the same. This stuff holds as long as no one clears the browser history, or you got a new device, or you're changing into a backup rig or something. This stuff will be there every day. You just have to make sure it's right, and then you can move on. Update it if it's wrong. Below that, you have the shift button, and most people don't use that option. We use it to differentiate between fire and AMR staffed ambulances, but most people don't use it. And then your medical device. That's just a filter. It just filters down to what device you're using. You can download an EKG file from any monitor within your agency. No problem at all. You just have to clear that filter, and you can do it in the run. You can leave this one here for your unit all the time, because most likely you're downloading from your own monitor, right? But sometimes the box might be downloading from the engine's monitor because they did the 12 lead. So you, inside the run, clear out the filter, and now you can get the one from the engine's monitor. It's really easy. If for some reason you're inside the run and the crew is changing, you can change the crew from within the run just as easy, and I'll show you. I can show you where to do that. When we were dual medic, we left the primary caregiver blank here, and we would alternate the primary caregiver in the run because we alternated every call. So it's just whatever's easier for you guys. So create a new incident. It's this new incident from CAD button, and it pulls CAD information in at the same time as it's creating an incident. Just make sure you select the right unit and the right call, because it is, your CAD information times are dependent on your unit. So make sure you get the right one. You can only see calls that you are listed as a crew member on. So if for some reason someone is, you're at the end of your shift, someone's about to go home, but like say half the crew is there and one person's a holdover and they're the one doing the documentation, if they don't adjust the crew and then they leave, whoever's left won't be able to see that run anymore if they weren't listed as crew members. So you have to go in and update that crew. And again, you can do it from within the run. So just make sure whoever's going to be finishing that run is listed as a crew member, and then they can correct it and finish it. If you're a supervisor or administrator, you can see everybody's call, but as a regular provider, you can only see the ones that you were a part of. County policy and Title 22, one PCR is required per every agency for every medical dispatch. So an example is if there's a Chula Vista first responding engine going to a Chula Vista ambulance, you only need to have one PCR. So you can transfer that one record, it will erase off the engines, and it will populate on the medics, and then the medics finish it through. There are situations where you might want to have two, such as like documenting a narcotic and you didn't get a chance to do it before you transferred, and I can get into a few more specifics when I get to the transfer stuff. And I told every class this is going to be one of your guys' biggest struggles down here, is you're surrounded by people that don't use this program. So transferring and receiving information, demographics, medical history, vitals prior to your arrival, all that stuff, if you're on a transporting unit and you're going into IB or Bonita or National City, they're not going to be able to provide that information or transfer those records into you. So that's going to be a bit of a struggle. And same thing when you have a unit coming to you. But if you did have an AMR unit that is running image trend or a county fire unit that's running image trend come into you, you can transfer and keep it, and then you'll have your record to finish, and they'll have their record to finish. Other than that, you're going to have to get creative on how we're going to transfer that information for the surrounding agencies. Is it going to be taking a picture of their run sheet? Is it going to be having paper PCRs so you can quickly transfer demos? I don't know what the best answer is. It's something you guys are going to have to play with and kind of figure out. And your administrators and you guys and your surrounding cooperators are going to have to figure out what works best. Hopefully, some of these agencies come on to image trend at some point. It will make your lives a lot easier because then they'll be able to transfer stuff to you, and then it will be a seamless transfer of information. But until that point, it's going to be a little cumbersome. Just it's full disclosure there. This is just to remind me to tell you that if you zoom in and out, some other user maybe is visually impaired or something and they zoomed way in, when you go to look at the run form, it might look different. They might have zoomed way in and these buttons might all be collapsed into like only two of them. You might not see some of this stuff, and maybe these were all shrunken down. The form might look different. If you zoom way out, it's going to show everything and maybe look a little different. So if it doesn't look familiar to you when you go to log in, someone might have played with the zoom setting a little bit. So you can just adjust your browser zoom, and that will make it look more like you're used to. So before you call an administrator and say, hey, a button's missing, zoom out a little bit. It might be there, just hiding. And if you do or are trying to document on a call and you can't see something, if you hit this all button at the bottom, it'll show you all of these tools on the side in like a dialog box. So you can see them and then adjust the zoom later, but just know that could happen. All right, I know it's a little small, but this is the run form, and I'm just going to walk you through kind of what the areas are. On the left, they have the sections and panels, and these are dynamic, so they'll open and close. You say you have a cardiac arrest, you'll get a cardiac arrest box. You say you transported a patient, you'll get a transporting box, and so on. You say you have multiple patients, you'll get a multiple patient box that pops up. So those were the sections and panels. You have your action items here, so like your save, your post. Your print and PDF do the exact same thing. I don't know why they're two buttons, but they will just open up a PDF view of your patient care report in another window. And I like to do that before I do a base hospital report. And it's so if the MICN asks me a question, I have it all there on a one-page sheet. It's just easier than jumping between sections and panels to find random questions the MICN might ask. So the CAD download, it downloads it automatically when you create an incident, if that's the setting we have, which I would imagine we will. And then I'll download CAD again right before I post my call to get all my updated times, my transport, at scene times, all that sort of thing. And then your EKG, you can figure out what the best flow for you would be. Is it the downloading when we get out to the call? Is it out to the ambulance? Is it downloading it at patient's bedside? It probably is going to depend on the acuity of the call, what type of call it is, and how close you are to your intended destination. Is going to dictate when you want to download your EKG. And then transfers, there's upload and download. And then down the right side here, let's go from the top to the bottom. Times brings out a little window with all of your times. Mileage, same thing, just with mileage. There's a timeline, and what this does, it shows you all of your interventions and your timeline of your patient interaction. And each one of them will have a arrow to the right side of it that's like a shortcut to that area. So if you want to update or adjust an intervention, your timeline is the best way to kind of navigate through those, because it'll just be in a chronological order, and you can just click on it and take you to wherever you need to go. A very simple way to get through your treatment. The situation tools just is a button for these three things that exist. If we start getting more of them, there might be more that stack up in there, but right now it's just these three that are below it, already on the list. And then the jot pad, some people love it, some people never use it. It just brings a blank piece of paper, like run sheet open, that you can write anything you want. It stays with the record, so it can be found if it's subpoenaed, so don't write anything inappropriate in there, but it doesn't fill any boxes in your run form. It's just for notes, like if you're trying to write down a contact's phone number, or a family member wanted you, remind him to do whatever, you can write a little note in there. Depending on what device you're using, it could be really easy to write with, or it could look like chicken scratch. Totally depends on your device and your ability to use it. I don't use it that much. Maybe I've used it once or twice for like a family member's phone number. Oh, tell the hospital to call me when he's available. Okay, I'll open that up, write the phone number real quick. That's about the only thing I've ever used it for. But play with it, see if you like it. The situation tools, those are new. They're yellow. I'll get into those in a little detail more. And then the power tools, how you document all your head-to-toe exams, your vital signs, GCS, and I'll get into those a little bit more here in a little bit as well. On the bottom of the form, you have your patient name and incident number. As soon as you put them into the form, they'll always be present on the bottom left. So it helps you when you're trying to talk to your patient. You can glance over, look at that real quick. And then also for your, giving a radio report, having your run number easily accessible. Validation score is a button. You can click on it and it will open up. I'll get into that more. Bottom menu has attachments and a few other items in there associating with an INFRS report and addendums and things. The status is your PCR status. It's not your patient status. It always will start in progress, and then when you are going to finish for non-billable calls, so your AMAs, cancels, or anything like that, it's going to be finalized. For anything that you're going to send a bill for, it's going to be ready for billing, and that sends it in the export to your billing company. So anything that's billable, ready for billing. If it's a mistake, created an error, and as long as you don't mess with it again, it will delete off your device after you post it, created an error. Some agencies use the review stuff, like we use the requires review a lot in our agency. Well, hopefully not a lot, because we use it for problems. But so we use it a little bit for escalating it to our reviewers, and it stops it in its tracks. It doesn't export anywhere. It doesn't go to billing. It doesn't go to ChemSys. We hold on to it until we can review it thoroughly, and then we change it to whatever we need to after that. There's these buttons throughout the forms. There's add. That just adds a grid anywhere that it says it for whatever that grid might be, a vital sign, a stroke scale, a pain score, whatever. Anytime there's a power tool available, they usually put a note to remind you to use the power tools. The close, which is self-explanatory. There's a little drop down next to the search buttons. There's a side panel menu. This groups things in categories like disease processes or types, and it brings out on the left for finding medical history or medications. I typically don't like using that much because it just opens up on the side and it's not the easiest to search through. You can try it, see if you like it. There's some situations you might find it useful for. And then there's the null value button. It's like when something didn't happen, that's the button to use. Did not obtain, not reported, things like that. There's these exclamation marks that live throughout the form, and that's to tell you that a validation or a input is required from you at that point. And if you hover over it, it tells you why it thinks you need it. So if you hover over that exclamation mark, it'll say arrived at scene time is needed. And if you said you arrived at scene, you need an arrived at scene time. If you were canceled prior to arrival, change your disposition to cancel prior to arrival at scene, and now you won't need that anymore. The clock will timestamp to the current date and time. So these are one of the menus. This is the patient history. You want to fill this out and use the drop downs and selections in here for patients. Because if you put them in correctly, it will import the next time you run on that patient. It will bring in history that was added correctly. If you add it any other way, like by taking a picture of a med list or a discharge instructions or something, if you just have it as an attachment, that won't load the next time you run on that patient. But anything you do in these proper drop downs will bring in the next time you find a repeat patient. I'll talk a little more about repeat patients here in a minute. But rolling through these menus, you have this find value button. The very top left of the PCR also has a find value, and you could search the entire PCR for something. But when you're within a menu like the medical history, you type something in there, and it'll start narrowing your list as you get into it. I usually like to type only like 3 letters or so, because if you type too much, it has to be specific to find it. But if you want to find hypertension, HTN, hypertension will come right up. You want to find diabetes, DIA, diabetes will come right up. And so anything else with DIA will also come up, but it's going to narrow that list down to where you only see like 5 or 10 things. Pick off whichever ones you want. Pretty simple to find things. If it's not available on the list, there's an NA not listed. It's if they have some weird medical history that you've never heard of and it's not on this list for some reason. Use that option. It brings up a dialog box, a free text. You can type whatever you want. The side menu right there will bring it out again over to the left side. You can try playing with it. There's some reason sometimes you might want to. Most of the time, I just don't like it. The null value, you should never not be able to answer a question in this system. You should always have something. So if the person said, you know what, I'm not telling you my medical history, you have that option. They refused. They're unresponsive, or they're, you just didn't get to it because the call was moving too fast. You just didn't get to getting their medical history yet because the box showed up and the patient was too acute or whatever, unable to complete. So you should always kind of have an option in the null value to say you didn't do something and why you didn't do it. This talks about those validation things. We want to get to 100 validation score for everything. These exclamation marks, you hover over them wherever they are. As you select different dispositions, it's going to require different things. You say you're canceled prior to arrival, it's not going to ask you a last and first name. It's all going to go away. All those validation things are going to go away. It's just going to need some times, incident address, and we need to sign all PCRs, and then you're done. So a canceled incident should take you, when you're, once you get familiar with the program, 30 seconds to a minute at most to do a canceled call. As you do a patient care report that's like a transport, it's going to open up more and more windows. You got the transport menu, you got your patient history, times, and now your validation score is going to drop down, and we're going to need more fields to be filled out. If something is repeated on the form, so like a patient name is in like 3 or 4 places, if it's in one place, you fill it out there, it's going to populate every place that it lives. You don't have to go into each location and fill it out. Every place you fill it out is going to populate every other location. We talked about this a little bit, but it's dynamic, so things come and go as you change. If you say it's a multiple patient, you get an MPI section, multiple patient section. You say it's a trauma, you get STEMI, stroke, cardiac arrest, those panels will pop up. If you answer that it's a female of childbearing age, you'll get pregnancy-related questions. You say it's a male, those questions won't be there. So there's some give and take to the program. And so if something isn't there, like if you're trying to say you transported somewhere, but you're not doing a transport, then the system doesn't believe that you need to fill that out. It doesn't mean you can't find it and fill it out, but it might throw some errors if you say you didn't transport and have a transport destination. So that's why it kind of hides things as you go through. For doing the transfer of the record, we want to, if you're transferring it to the transporting unit or to the base hospital, we want to fill out this first page that brings you into it as completely as possible, and then add a set of vitals, a GCS, and a PQRST, pain score. The less information you have filled out here, the less information that transporting units is going to get, the less information that base hospital record is going to get, and the more information you're going to have to give in your radio report or your pass down. So the more you get, the better. Everything in this first panel is repeated somewhere else. So that whole first panel is a repeat, and it's right now a little out of order. In all honesty, we voted as the working group to clean it up a little bit and reorganize it so it follows the call flow a little bit more. Over the year, the county has added a few questions, and it's gotten a little out of order. Like when COVID happened, they added some COVID questions and so on. And so we want to clean it up, make it nice so it follows the flow of the call. But you want to fill this out as completely as possible. And then as if you don't hit it in here, like if you don't get your vitals and you transfer to the base is going to ask you your vitals when you go to do your report. If you get them in there and you fill this out completely, you can do that modified radio report that the county put into policy a few years back. And they're getting really good at it on the hospital side, where for most basic calls, if you get this information in there and let them know you're doing a modified report, you just do a very simple like destination report and let them review this, answer any questions, and let them know your ETA, and you're done. It's very quick, and I'm sure you guys have heard them on the radio, maybe depending on which channels or hospitals you're listening to. But these modified reports are very helpful, but always be ready to do a full report just in case the hospital can't find your record or there's some internet problem or glitch and this didn't make it over to them. Most of the times I go to try to use this, it works just fine, but occasionally it gets lost in translation and you have to do a full report. So always be able to jump in with a full report if needed. I'll do a demo of a radio report. It's going to be a horrible demo, but I'll do one in a little bit of the modified report. It's just there's a few terminology things that the county's looking for to let them know that you did this, and then they kind of want a little backstory on it as well. So continue on the form. This is that home panel. There's a driver's license scanner feature. And it's going to highlight based off of which device you're on. So you guys are going to get the top one for the iPad. It uses the camera from the device and takes a picture of the barcode that's on the back of a state ID or driver's license. If it once you scan it, it's going to upload first, last name, date of birth, and address. If their address is changed, you can still go in and change it, no problem. So you just have to really double check that their address is right. If you can't find an ID, you're of course still able to go in and type everything in as they tell you. The repeat patient. So I touched a little bit on this with the medical history, but with your repeat patient bucket, it's going to fill up your repeat patients. The more you run on call people, they're going to start populating in here. And you could your administrators can set it for any length of time of up to, I want to say it's like a year or maybe a little longer. But it's going to stack up, and the more that you have filled out on the previous encounters, the more it's going to bring in. So if you scan somebody's driver's license, it's going to start searching in the background, and if it finds them, it's going to tell you up here on a little status bar, it's going to say 1 repeat patient case found, 10 repeat patients case found, or for some people, 50 repeat patient found, whatever. And you can click there, click here. It'll bring you into this dialog box. And then you could find the record that you want to download and bring it into your report. You can do it with partial information, but just be careful because you might bring in the wrong patient, right? And so you start checking, hey, did you ever live at this address? No, I've never lived there. Or do you have a medical history of XYZ? No, I've never had that. Okay, I pulled in the wrong person. Down on the pop-up, there's a remove repeat patient. So you click repeat patient again, get in here. You can remove that person from your run form. And that's huge because it brings in a ton of stuff, right? It's going to bring in address, billing information, meds, history, allergies. You don't have to go through and delete everything that it brought in. You hit this one button, it takes everything that came in that was wrong out from that chart. So if you find that you brought in the wrong person, that's what you do. But when you have the right person, it's going to bring in all that information from the last encounter. So if you took the time and put in all their meds, history, allergies, and billing information and all that stuff, it's going to bring it in to this encounter. So you scan their ID, you found the repeat patient, you brought them in, all your demos and meds, history, allergies is done with those two features right there for your repeat patients at least. So that's really cool. It works really well. You just double check, hey, last time we took you, did you have any new medications? You know, any changes? No. Any new diagnosis? No. Okay, we're good. There's also a feature from San Diego Health Connect. It is, they call it a few things. It's San Diego Health Connect, the SAFER program. It's in the system, they call it the HIH Health Information Hub or HIE Health Information Exchange. Depending on which county and who wrote the program, they all call them different things. It has some flaws right now. I think you guys use it with water. I don't know if you have the same experience that I do with it. But it will search and find patients on this massive patient database they have in the county, and it will bring in stuff when you're having a hard time finding a history of a patient. The problem with it is it dumps way too much information in there, right? It's going to throw in 20 years of medical history of when they got an ankle fracture 10 years ago, with the last 10 versions of hypertensive meds they've taken, when they changed their dose of lisinopril the last 10 times. You know, so it gets to be too much information sometimes and inaccurate, and your your medication list ends up being like a freaking ridiculously long, and so it will, when you find a person in here, it can load and it will spin in the background. You can see it. It's like it'll have a little status bar loading patient from HIE. And it will continue to do that. And if you go, well, it doesn't look like it's finding anybody, and you start inputting meds, history, allergies as you go along, and then all of a sudden this catches up and says, oh, hey, we found somebody, and it throws them in, it's going to delete everything that you just put in there. So if you have this searching in the background, you might want to hold off on putting stuff in there for a little bit, or maybe put it in like the narrative or somewhere else. So when this comes through, it doesn't dump what you've already done. Most agencies that use this program love the repeat patient bucket, not so fond of the HIE thing. It's really cool for certain situations when you cannot find that person's medical history, right? You have that person that's confused on the side of the road and you have no idea what their history is. This could be a huge feature to find. If you're able to find their driver's license and match them, then you can find out why they're confused. Oh, they have a history of Alzheimer's and dementia. No wonder they're wandering the streets at 2 in the morning. Okay, they're not a stroke code, or they're not a trauma, or whatever. Or those people that are reluctant to tell you their medical history, are psych patients that will never tell you they're bipolar or schizoaffective or whatever. This will find out and this will tell you. So it's good for those types of calls when you're not able to get their history anywhere else. Just use caution when you're putting stuff in there. It could erase anything you've entered in there already. So if you have a good source of it, you might want to go through that other way of doing it. When you use the repeat patient button, you only need partial information to search for them. So be careful again. You can remove them or accidentally load the wrong person. When you're using the HIE, you need to have complete information up to gender. So you have to have first, last name, date of birth, and gender, and they have to be exact. If they're going by Johnny and they use John or Jonathan or whatever, then it's going to be off. So make sure you have their legal name, whatever they have on their driver's license. At the bottom of the assessment, or the first page, and also on the assessment page, this is what I was talking about. It gives you those little reminders. Use these power tools. You don't want to necessarily use the add in some of these situations, because this add is okay. It's not too bad. You going through that one, this add is horrible. It takes way too long. It'll take like a half an hour to do a head to toe on somebody, so use this one. This one takes like 10 seconds. So half an hour, 10 seconds. Trust me, you'll never use that one. But just know that it's available if you need to go in and update or change something, and that's for the head to toe. There's power tools for a lot of other stuff, and we try to put reminders in there to remind you to use the power tool, but you can always use the add if you want to. There's multiple ways of inputting stuff in here, downloading stuff from an EKG, using a power tool, using a situation tool, on a transfer. There's lots of different ways to get information. Play with it, use whatever way works best for you. This is the vital sign power tool. It looks a little different right now, but when you click on a area to input something, it will bring up a little calculator button box on the side to type in numbers. As you type in, it will track in order from left to right, top to bottom. So you start typing in blood pressure, 120, 80, 90, then respirations is next, 16, SpO2, 98. You can just type in the numbers, and it will keep going down the line as you're going. And then you can come back later and answer any qualifying questions. You know, is it a normal pulse quality? Is it did I get this from an EKG, or did I palpate their heart rate? You know, different random qualifying questions they have in the machine. You only have to answer the qualifiers once, unless you want to answer them again. You can, but they're only required once. And when you do them from different methods, they combine. So if I brought something in on an EKG, so the example I've used is we don't bring in respirations from our EKG, and it's because the Zoll X-rays doesn't count respirations that well. It'll say they're breathing at 46 when they're really breathing at 16. So I turned it off, and we have to import it manually. So if I brought in vitals from the monitor, it'll fill all of my stuff out except for my respirations. I go in, fill it out manually, I'm good. It'll combine as one full set of vitals in the backside. The EKG is awesome. Work with the program and see when you're going to be doing it. Patient status and destination you're going to, and the patient the type of call is going to dictate when you do some of these things. If it's a chest pain and you're trying to bring in a 12 lead to transfer to the MICN, you might want to do it earlier than later, right? If it's a short ETA and you're busy running calls, you might not get to this until you're at the hospital and you're downloading the entire case as one file. Just play with the calls, the information, the call types. You're gonna have to figure out what the best way to do this is. Sometimes you might want to download it and then transfer it to the next incoming resource. So the engine's doing their PCR tapping away, they just get a 12 lead or whatever, and then the box shows up. It's like, well, I could download it into mine and then transfer it to yours, or I can transfer it now and then you can download the 12 lead on your own. There's pros and cons to both. So just pick and choose. Yeah?
Does it timestamp, if you timestamp epi in the monitor, does it auto-populate the epi into?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So I was gonna get to that. The code markers are completely customizable. This is not from the county slide. This is from my agency slide. But there's certain events that will create a trigger in the PCR, and some that will not. And it's based on your agency settings. They can bring settings in to bring over all sorts of different things. And a lot of the example I give a lot is capnography. The respirations one was another one, but capnography is another one that we don't have turned on. And the reason is because the last value that it would always bring into the program was a 0, because at the end of a code, you're done, right? No one's doing anything, and you haven't turned the monitor off yet, but the last value you're gonna see is a 0 for capnography. And so if we had it coming in automatically, at the end of every cardiac arrest, you're gonna get a 0. So this is something that we chose not to bring in automatically. And I'm going to encourage the same settings with your administrators, but you guys can play with them, turn some on, turn some off, bring in the heart rate, bring in when the heart rate changes 10 beats, then it'll bring in a new vital sign every time the heart rate changes. But that became a problem when you hit a speed bump. Now the heart rate jumps to 100 beats, and now you have a new set of vitals that's wrong. So that's what happens when we play with the system or add too many things. So up at the top here, so closing a case. It's not a continual feed from the monitor. You have the ZOL case has to close. It uploads to the ZOL cloud, and then it talks to the image trend cloud, and then you can bring it into the ePCR. It's not a continual feed. So if you have new vital signs, new 12 leads, new code markers, you have to close the case again and upload it again and go through that process again. You can upload as many case files as you want. Like if you're doing a cardiac chest pain, I would typically bring in that case file, close it when I got out to the box, and that way I can transfer it to the MICN so they can see the 12 lead and all that. And then when I get to the hospital, I'll do it again, close the case, then I have all of my transport vital signs. So now I would have two files. On the last class, I brought in an empty case file. I just went to some random call that somebody ran. They did nothing. They created an event. So that could still be beneficial if your call ends up in court or for some reason. Like the blunt traumatic arrest protocol. We need to capture a systole and 2 leads, or a systole. And if we're not seeing that, or if we're not doing any event that captures that, like a snapshot or any use of electricity or anything, then it's not going to populate, but it will still bring the case file in, and that case file will always be referenced in your PCR and attached, so you could reference the ZOL full case file on their software at another time. So if there's a court case or something and you need to prove that it was a systole, your administrators can see, okay, it's this case file on this date, I go here, find this case file, and they can print out that full case file, and even though it didn't live in your PCR. But we want to try to populate pertinent things in our reports, right? So what populates our event for our agency? Any use of electricity will create an event. So you shock somebody, you pace somebody, you cardiovert somebody. Any successful blood pressure reading will bring in all vitals and all rhythms on the screen at that time. So any capnography, waveform, any pulse ox, anything that was displayed when that blood pressure ticked, that's what will come across. Snapshot, we use the snapshot for the end-tidal CO2, and we use it for anything else that you want us to take a picture of. It will also bring in any vitals that are alive at that time you do the snapshot, and anything on the screen. It is great for your SVT conversions, and then it will also be really good for your end-tidal CO2 prior, post, and at transfer of care. All 12 leads come across, and they also they'll be a perfect, like they call it, diagnostic quality. So for transferring it to the MICN, it looks really good. They're actually been more likely to activate a STEMI because they get a better copy of it than they do with some of the distribution lists that they've been accustomed to. So I encourage that. And then the code markers. So answering the question about the code markers, they're very flexible. You can make up to 10 of them with the ZOL X series, and you can make them for any medication or procedure that your agency wants to. On the image trend system, you set them to what you want it to come across as, and then on the ZOL side, you put the abbreviation or whatever you want to. You only get like 5 characters to put in there or something, but you have that put in there. And then anytime I hit epi, it's going to timestamp it, capture all the rhythms, all the waveforms, and any vitals that are active at that time. And it's going to create an event for epi, timestamp it, and create that it was a medication that was given. And so that's it. It's going to timestamp, epi was given at this time. Same thing for ET intubation or aspirin or whatever your agency has set. You could also use them off-label, so to speak, or those placeholders. So if you want to say you gave Narcan during a cardiac arrest, but you don't have a Narcan button, you can hit fentanyl or something else, and then remember to go in and change it later. And it's because it's still going to have that you gave a medication at this time. It's going to timestamp I gave a medication, and then you can go in and change later what medication you gave. Just remember to do it, right? Don't forget, or else it's going to look like you gave your code fentanyl. So these are what we have them set as, and I'm going to recommend that to your agency as well. You can play with them, turn some things on, turn some things off, but when you do that, you start getting a lot of inaccurate vital signs. We played with this over the years, and this is kind of where we've gotten accustomed to, and it works really well for us. So this is that head-to-toe power tool or the secondary assessment. You go in, you hit all normal, and it's going to populate everything as all normal. Everything turns blue. And then you work backwards and say what's abnormal. And as you go through, you can say, okay, chest, abrasion, contusion, pain, and then you could, if you have the option to, it's not required, to add any details. You know, I can say, oh, here's some findings on the patient reported were from a fall 2 days ago. And if you want to say you didn't do something, because say I don't want to say that this homeless person's, unsheltered person's feet are normal. I don't want to say that because they don't smell normal from here. Then I'm going to say not performed, tag it, it turns it yellow, and it says not performed foot assessment. So you can say you did that if you want to. The county took a stance when we originally rolled this out of going this route, and we understand that you are not checking their fifth toe to say that it is normal. You're not looking at every little thing. You're not looking at their perineum on every call. We get that. We understand that, right? There's certain things you're not going to do, but it's as everything is assumed as normal unless reported abnormal. If you want to get specific because you have that feeling of I don't want to say something that's inaccurate, that I did something that's normal when I don't think it is, feel free to tag something not done. It's totally acceptable. But they understand that this is the way the document system works. It tags everything as normal, and that's kind of a default deficiency of the program, in my opinion, because it would be nice to say maybe I can do like some of these as normal and not include every single little thing on someone's body that we said is normal. But this goes super quick when you do it. It's pretty nice. I talked about this. You can combine power tools, transfers, and EKGs and grids for doing a complete set of vitals. It doesn't matter where they come from, just get some complete ones in there. Figure out which way you want to get what vitals in there. And usually it's a combination of the power tools and the EKG is, I think, what most people default to. Try to get all those in there before you do the transfer, or the hospital's going to ask you what they are. These are those situation tools. These are new. They came out about a month ago now. CAL FIRE up until last week was the only agency using them. We were testing them, and now San Marcos just turned them on. They're really beneficial for documenting medications and procedures. You do not have to be on the type of event that it lists here. It doesn't have to be a CPR to use the tool. That just kind of is what types of things you would typically see in that scenario. But if I was on a trauma and I couldn't get an IV, so I went with an IO, I can open up CPR because I know the IO lives in there, and I can do IO. And it's not going to say it's a CPR. It's just kind of the way it groups these tools together. It doesn't have to be that type of call to be in there. And we couldn't put every tool in every box because then this screen would just get too cluttered and it'll be too hard to find something. So this was kind of a happy medium of finding what you would normally see on that situation and document, and not putting too much to where it's cluttered and has too much stuff here. Everything with the naming convention will say what you're documenting. And then if it says something in brackets, it's going to document it, and it's always going to document it as successful unless the brackets are saying unsuccessful. Anything procedure-wise, typically will have an unsuccessful, especially when it comes to like intubations and IVs and stuff. But if it says the route, then the route will get documented. If it says the dose will get documented. And then for things like procedures, they're always defaulted to one attempt and successful. And so you just have to go in and clean up the patient's response to the procedure and where it was. So where did I get my 16 gauge? I couldn't put that in here because then if I had every site available, this thing would just be a mile of IV access. So we can't do that. So we have every size successful, and you go, okay, 16 gauge, saline lock. Then I go in later, right AC, or wherever. For the example here, it shows all the items that document when you hit aspirin 324 milligrams PO. So it's going to document the crew member who's defaulted as the primary caregiver. It's going to default the current time. When you hit the button, it timestamps it. The dose, 324. The units, milligrams, route, oral, PO. Everything successful, unless said otherwise. Everything is defaulted to no complications, and everything is defaulted to standing order. If anything is different, anything at all, you can go in and change it at any point in time. The only time you cannot change something is when it's a medication, a procedure, or a vital sign that came to you on a transfer from another unit. You cannot change that. Those are locked down, and they're locked down intentionally. So if something is wrong on that, then you have to explain it in your narrative. You can't change what someone transferred. And that's intentional systems design to maintain the integrity of what the person before you said they did. So if I said I did something, the next crew can't come in and say they did something different or they saw me do something different. Everything else you can change. Anything else, the dispositions, medical history, destinations, anything else besides those things I mentioned, you can change at any time. If you do the procedure or if you do the intervention or the vital sign, then you're able to change it all day long. It doesn't matter. So with this, always remember to review your documentations for accuracy, and that should be with any program you're using, right? So if you hit one of these code markers and you go in later and you realize, oops, I fat fingered that and I hit the wrong button, you can change it. You can correct it to the right med, but you have to go in and review it. And I mentioned this earlier. We noticed in a CQI that somebody had a medication that wasn't indicated, and the person basically did that. They just hit the wrong one, and they're like, I didn't mean to hit that. I hit the wrong one. Well, you need to go in and review your stuff for accuracy afterwards. You just can't assume that you hit it once and it's right. If you're using your code markers, like we talked about, make sure you're not doubling up, because you could, if you keep going with, you start off your code when you're shorthanded working code markers, and then you get more staff and you transition to using the situation tools, stop using the code markers. These document more, so you might want to go to these and stop using the code markers when you're able to. Just make sure you're not doing both, because then it's going to show, 2 EPIs were given at the same time or whatever, so make sure you kind of know which one you're on. So, now it's on scene, hey, we're going from code markers, situation tools. Whenever you get the hands available, the code gets to that point, your staffing levels get to that point where you're able to do it. Or stay with the code markers the whole time, your choice. But the code markers are only going to do that you gave the medication of epi. They're not going to say the route, the dose, and all that sort of thing. So yeah, there's lots of different ways to bring in IV, airway procedures. There's the power tools, there's the grids, there's things like that. Just figure out what works best for you and roll with that way. And you can always do a combination of them. Do some things from code markers, some things from situation tools, some things from power tools. Just use whatever works for you. Play with it, play with the system, and you'll find out some things will work better in different situations. All right, I know I touched on NIMSYS stuff at the beginning. NIMSYS went through a change recently to this thing they call version 3.5. And the big change for everybody is that it changed the dispositions. We went from having one patient incident disposition to having multiple incident patient dispositions. And so you have 5 now. It made it get really accurate to say what you're doing instead of just everything being very vague. So I could say that I was on an ALS resource and I railed in on a BLS resource, maintaining patient care, transporting to a landing zone. You can get like super specific on what you're doing and what your patient's doing. And then, hey, you know what? We got to the landing zone and they woke up and they ran out of the back of the ambulance. You can say that with your dispositions now, and it'd be a lot more accurate on what happened. But because there's a lot of flexibility, it opened up a lot of room for error. And so we just a few weeks ago, maybe like 3 weeks ago, we're able to turn on these things called preset values. And what they do for the dispositions is they take those 5 fields plus whatever ones I could think of throwing in there, and they fill those out. So one button might fill out 10 or more fields, and it will make your life a lot easier, and it will make it accurate to what the situation was. So these are more reflective of what we've seen with the previous dispositions, but they will automatically fill out with those new ones. One thing to know is if you're a non-transport unit, you can only see non-transport stuff. If you're a transporting unit, you can only see transport stuff for that first box up top. And that's intentional so you don't show engines transporting to the hospital and things like that. Everybody can see the ones below. And they look like this. It'll open up a dialog box after you click it, and it'll say, hey, here's the field that it wants to change, here's what the current value is, and here's what we want to change it to. So for this example, it's taking 2 button clicks from hitting the preset value and hitting apply, and it's going to change 13 fields. So it makes it a lot easier than you sitting there going, patient contact made, patient care and evaluation, initiated care, and going through this whole flow chart that the NIMSIS made and then county and state had to conform to. It opened up a lot of room for error, and those preset values made it a lot easier. Now again, you could change those. So if something happened or something changed, you can go in and change that individual value in here if something's different. I'm just going to breeze through the examples the county gave because we have those values now, those preset values. Lift assist, I'm going to stop on for a minute because there is a preset value for lift assist. It's up to your agency when they are telling you to document one. We have to document them anytime it's dispatched as a medical call. If it's dispatched as a PSA, we don't have to do a PCR for it right now. County, I'm pretty sure is going to change that policy next year to documenting every lift assist. But you know, don't hold your breath. We'll see. The cool thing about this is it can be used for a lot of situations. The combination here is it's a non-patient incident, and support services were provided. And so you're basically saying you went somewhere that was a medical dispatch call, and I did something that wasn't a patient care related. So what this could be used for is being dispatched into somebody else's IA to help with a medical TC, or help with a medical aid, a CPR or something, and you get there and you just help lift bags while they're walking out to the ambulance, or you help lift the patient, or you help pop a door, do traffic control. You can still document a PCR saying, hey, I went to a medical call, but I didn't do medical stuff. So it's not going to ask you meds, history, allergies. It's not going to ask you for demos and vital signs. It's just going to ask you for basically times and a few things. We have an agency-specific rule that requires people to write a narrative when they do this. So if somebody is extracting a victim, our USAR or a helicopter goes and does victim removal, they're not providing patient care yet officially. So they're doing victim removal, and so they do this, write a narrative about what they did and how they removed the patient, and then somebody else is documenting the patient care stuff. So they don't have vitals, they don't have demographics, they don't have things like that because they weren't able to get it from that person in the situation. So there's a lot of good uses for that type of scenario, if you think about it. So uploads, transfer uploads and downloads. For the uploads, they pretty much go to transporting units and base hospitals. You only really transfer upload to each person one time. You're not going to re-upload to the base or anything. You only do it that one time and that's it. You want to make sure you have their attention before you upload it to them, because we all know when you're shopping around to bases, they might not be able to take your call, and you don't want to be sending PCRs to hospitals that aren't able to take your call. One, it's going to waste your time, and then two, you're sharing patient information with a hospital that has no involvement in that patient care. So make sure they're able to accept it before you start transferring it, and then make sure you have the right transporting agency and unit number when you transfer it to that unit. When the unit downloads it, it's gonna fill all those fields on their form. So on the way to the response, the ambulance is gonna create and start their own PCR, download their own CAD, all that stuff. And then when they get close, or when the engine lets them know the call has been uploaded, whether it's on the way or when they're almost there or after they've already left, or why you're on scene, you can download that transfer, and it's going to populate all those fields within your record for demographics, vitals, anything that is set to come over will come across on that transfer. And again, it's going to lock down medications that were given, vital signs that were taken, and procedures that were performed. Those three are the only things that are going to be 100% locked down once you transfer something. They will not affect the downstream unit's validation score, but you will not be able to change it. So if something's wrong, you have to explain it in your narrative. An example I was given is like a month ago, we saw our transporting unit had a blood sugar of 7 documented in their report, and with no medication given, no treatment given. And so when we went to look at it, we were reading through the PCR, we saw that they downloaded that on a transfer from a Valley Center engine. They meant to hit 70, they left the 0 off, it looked like 7, and so now it shows you have a low blood sugar in the record. So in their narrative, they wrote on download, the blood sugar came across 7, patient blood sugar was actually 7D. And so, oh, okay, we see what happened now. It makes sense. So you can explain in your narrative, but even an administrator, even the county system administrator, once it's locked on a transfer, they cannot change it. No one can. So you can only explain it away. All right, uploading it looks like this. You got to select your current agency. If you're going to Chula Vista, it's going to be current agency. If you're uploading to a base, the bases are in here listed as agencies. They have no units for the base hospitals. So if you're going to Palomar, UCSD, whoever, just select them. And you want to always, for the base hospitals, transfer and keep. You do not want to transfer and remove the record to the base hospital, or it's going to disappear from your device. And it's a pain in the butt to get back. You can get it back. You have to contact a system administrator, like Paul or somebody else, to grab it, and they can pull it back in. It's a little bit of a pain, but you can do it. So really focus on making sure you do the right one. Transfer and keep when you're talking to the base. Only when it's a Chula Vista ambulance or a Chula Vista unit can you transfer and remove. And then make sure you have the correct unit number. And when they go to download, they pull it up in here. It's only going to have the ones that have not been downloaded yet, and it's going to put them in the most recent at the top. As soon as you download it, you can only download it once. Once I download it, it's gone. It populates my stuff, and it disappears from this list. If for some reason you're on a transporting unit and you can't find a call in here, they might have transferred it to the wrong unit number. You can clear it, the filter up here at the top for the unit and call sign. You can clear it and show all ones in here. But if you download the wrong one, you permanently download it, and whoever is supposed to get it will not be able to. So make sure you're getting the correct call and transferring it to the correct units. It's really going to help your process out. All right, so we talked about the call moves all over the place. It posts, it transfers, transferring to other agencies, other units, base hospital records. And then the posting is going to the state. It's going to your server to maintain for patient records request and things like that. It's going to billing agencies that do billing for you. It's going to the cardiac advanced care resuscitation, the CARES registry. It's going all over the place after it's posted to the server. So that's how this product kind of gets around. And then it also gets to the nursing station at whatever receiving hospital you're going to. Through that hospital hub, they get a copy of it. So as long as you have the correct hospital listed as the receiving hospital, that is the transfer patient record. They get it as soon as you post it. So we want to post it en route to the hospital when you're able to, after you've made base hospital contact. And the reason why you want to do it after is because your destination could change when you talk to the base, right? They could be on internal disaster, bypass, whatever. Their CT could be down, whatever the reason. So make sure you make base hospital contact, and then afterwards you can post it. If there's any changes and you have the ability, the time, you can post it. Well, definitely if you have any changes, like a change in status, try to repost it. But definitely if you change your destination before you're done with it, make sure you correct it and then repost it. The county wants to mention to post early and post often. I understand that you guys are very close to hospitals the majority of the time, and you will be lucky to be able to do a full radio report, transfer this record, and post it once before you get to the hospital. Posting it multiple times is probably not going to happen. But if you do have a change, especially an important change like a destination change, try to post it again, especially correct it at least before you post it for your last one. That way the correct receiving hospital gets that record. So you have to do it before the end. The validation score. When you go through your validation button at the bottom, it opens up this. Anything that is missing is going to tell you. It's going to show up right there. It's going to say, hey, you need to fill out this form, you need to fill out this, and everything should kind of make sense of why it's asking you to do it. Should kind of make sense. If you click the arrow on the right side, it'll take you right to wherever that missing field is, and then if you hover over that exclamation mark, it'll tell you why you need it. So here it says this field's missing. I click the arrow. It takes me to that area. Hover over the exclamation mark. It says, hey, you need to have an not seen time because you said you were canceled at scene. If you were canceled prior to arrival, change your disposition to cancel prior to arrival. It will no longer ask you for an at scene time. And then that goes for almost any situation. If you said it was a trauma type patient and it's asking you for trauma type stuff, but you changed it and said, no, they didn't fall. They were assisted to the ground. And now it's a medical call and not a trauma call, then if it's still asking you trauma-y stuff, it's because somewhere you're still saying it's a trauma. So you need to go in and say it's not a trauma anymore. There's these ones that have a circle with a line through it. Those are called closed calls rules. Where this is important is when you're trying to post this record without it being finished. You cannot post a record without all of these closed calls rules being answered. They get answered in the first couple minutes, or seconds typically. A CAD download will answer the first few, and then the last four are, is it a STEMI, stroke, trauma, or cardiac arrest? Those are the only closed call rules. As long as you do a CAD download and answer those 4 questions, you can post it if the score is -500. It doesn't make a difference. It can always post. You just can't check a box that says, I'm finished with it. You can't say you're finished when it's -500, but you can still post it. So let me go back. So where this is really important is if you're about to go off shift and you have like an AMA or a cardiac arrest that you just ran and your relief is waiting for you, and you know as soon as you get back and do that hot swap, they're probably going to get another call and go somewhere. You want to make sure you post it and get it off that device so you can finish it at another workstation. This also works if you have overtime at another station and you're like, hey, I'm going over from 54s to 57s and I want to finish my run over here. I post my record and then I can finish it at my new destination. You can do it from any device on the web side once it's finished, once it's posted, sorry. So answer these 6 or so questions, post it, and then you can finish it anywhere you are. If you don't post it off there and that new unit gets a response and goes, at least for our policy, we have to wait for that resource to come back to finish the record because they have to have it done before they go home. So it helps to be able to post it and get it off that device. We talked about making base hospital contact. After that, post the record. Post when there's any changes. The final post is every single time you do it, it brings up this dialog box. Remember, if it's not finished, don't check the box that says it's finished, and it'll let you do it. As soon as you check this box, it has to be at a high enough score, and the criteria they have set right now is 95. We're aiming for 100, right? But there might be some reasons, so that's why they have it set low. But check that box. And as soon as it's posted to the server, being finished, everything from that point on is audit tracked. Anytime you open up anything to edit it, it's going to pop up a dialog box and say, why are you in here? What are you doing? And if you answer it and say, forgot to upload EKG file, uploading EKG, and then you go upload the EKG, it will let you do it after you say it's finished. It's fine. It's not locked for 24 hours after that. So it'll still let you make changes and stuff up into that 24-hour point. It's just going to ask you why you're doing it. So, and that audit tracker is going to live forever after you say you're finished with the record. After it's locked, the only people that can unlock it is administrators and supervisors. When they unlock it, it's available for 7 days to edit it. You still have that audit tracker that pops up, but you have more time to correct it, and that's if the administrators CQI you and want you to update something or want to make a change or download that EKG because you forgot to do it on the chest pain call or whatever. It's going to be unlocked for you for those 7 days, but you still have to answer the audit tracker. And it's still going to keep track. So it's going to keep track of the user that is making those changes, the reason that you said you're in there. It's going to say, show me the value it was before, and it's going to show me the value it was after for every single thing you touch and change within that run form. So I just want to let you know that it does track very well within the system after you say it's finished. Up until that point, nothing's audit tracked. But once it's finished, it's audit tracked for every single thing. All right, so this is what it takes to get it up to the state level. Everything has to be met. You have to be at 100%. It has to be finished with that checkbox. It has to be ready for billing as a status for all billable calls, or ready for billing for anything that's non-billable, your AMAs, canceled, whatever else. And then it has to get locked, which takes place automatically 24 hours after you finish the call. Attachments. There's an attachments button, the menu button at the bottom. Attachments is one of the main things in there. Also associating it with the fire report, which Stephanie will touch on here in a moment, as long as I don't walk away with the Wi-Fi again, which happened last class. There's a camera that lives within this program. It says take a photo, use that button. Don't use your device to take pictures and then browse for them on your device, because those pictures live on your device. And if there's any malware, or your department gets hacked or something happens, you want them to be behind the protection of this program, because everything in there is encrypted, protected, and is keeping it safe for all your HIPAA compliance and all that. So use the take a photo. You can use the drop down to say what type of attachment this is. Is this a photo of an APS case house? Is this a billing information? Is it a pulse form? Whatever you want to say is optional for the document type. And then use the take a photo. You can upload as many photos as you want. But the more you have, the longer it takes to post it, to transfer it, and to do all those things. So if you got a bunch of photos of that APS house because you want to show the hospital how horrible these living conditions are, you can do it. Just when you go to transfer it to the MICN or something, know that those photos are going to make it take a little longer to do that transfer. Photos do not come over on repeat patients. So if you take a photo of that med list or the medical history, it's gonna live on the patient record forever, but it's not going to populate the next time you do a repeat patient for that person. If you're having any issues with your device, you can clear the browser history. You go into the settings, go into whichever browser, Safari or Chrome, and go to the clear browser history and data. A strong word of warning, make sure everybody is done with their calls before you do this. As soon as you clear the cache, it is going to delete every call that is not posted to the server off that device. And remember, you can only see calls that you're listed as a crew member on. So if you're that new medic that's coming in and going, oh, I'm going to clear the cache on this device and make sure it's running as good as possible for me, and you clear the cache, in the meantime, the guy that just got off the cardiac arrest went to go have coffee, and he comes out to finish his PCR, and you clear the cache, you're going to not make any friends that day, because that call is going to be deleted, and it's going to be a pain to get it back. Got to contact an administrator, have them recover the call. It might or might not be at the same level of completion that it was when you last saw it. It might be a little less. It might be right where it was, depending on when it touched the server. But it's really good for keeping devices working right. Just please go through everybody that's working and make sure nobody has any calls they're actively working on, because you might really make some enemies if you clear the cache. They recommend Chrome or Safari for iPads. It works just fine. If they're having any issues there, you could make sure that the browser's updated. That's to the most current version. We had this up at the beginning, how to add it to your desktop. Basically send it, save it as a shortcut, send it to your home screen on your iPad. Makes it a lot easier. The web version one shows up looking exactly the same, but red. It's red in color. So you have the blue one and the red one. If you end up in the red one, I know a lot of colors here I'm throwing at you. The link is red, but when you log in, it shows up like kind of gold. Don't operate on a call in that. If you lose connection for 2 seconds, your call goes away. So make sure you're always on the field version, the blue version. Last section here is multiple patients and MCIs. The home screen has a single, multiple, or none for the patients. If you hit multiple, it brings up this MPI section at the top. The reason why it's up top is so you can just keep hitting add a patient, and they'll stack up on the bottom left as you add them to your scene. When you add a patient, the last name is what populates in the bottom left-hand corner. So as they're stacking up, you hit add a patient, add a patient, add a patient. They start stacking up here in the bottom. You want to go in to that last name and say something that lets you know what patient you're working on. So I'll do something like patient number 1 is left leg, patient number 2, kid, patient number 3, headlock, patient number 4, minor, or whatever, however you want to word it, to where you know which patients you're going between, because when you click on this one, everything behind the scenes is now going to change to patient number 2. I click patient number 3, everything behind the scenes is now on 3. So when I'm updating vitals or transferring that PCR to the transporting unit or something, you want to make sure you're on the right person, right? You can always go in later when you're ready and update it to their real first and last name. You can only transfer one record at a time. So if you're trying to transfer a 5-patient TC to the base hospital, you can only transfer one of them. Maybe transfer the record that that ties it to the incident number and that has the incident information in it. But you can go through still and give them the patients over the radio, as we normally do with MPIs. You're probably not going to go in here on an MPI and before you have base hospital contact made and be able to fill out all that stuff and transferring it to the base. I don't think anybody's going to be able to get to that point. You're still probably going to run your MPIs pretty much the same way, but in the background somebody might be getting this completed and still be able to transfer more information to different units and kind of start making progress to completing this stuff. For your MCIs, per county policy, you only need to have one PCR for an MCI. So if you answer multiple patient yes, mass casualty yes, your validation score instantly jumps up. You're not going to need demographics, you're not going to need vitals, there's a lot of stuff, meds, history, allergies, all that stuff's going to go away. You're still going to need to have all the incident information and times and then a narrative. And that one narrative is going to encompass the entire incident. So if you have a 40-patient MCI, you can do one paperwork for that entire 40-patient MCI with one narrative. And then you use the attachment feature at the bottom to attach any of your tactical worksheets, your 201s, your triage tags, anything you have that adds to that record, you put it as attachments. And that will suffice as your 40-patient patient care report. That's totally fine as long as you're not billing, right? If you're billing, your agency's probably still going to want you to do one per patient. But if you're taking all 50 of those or 40 of those patients to the hospital on a school bus and you're not billing them, you probably don't care and you can do one PCR. If you're only documenting as the engine, you don't care about billing, so you're probably still only going to be able to do one. So this works really well. We understand you're not doing it at the time of the scene. This is something to do after when you're back at the station, gather all your stuff, all your worksheets and stuff, and then complete it as one PCR and you're good. All right, make sure at some point today you confirm your logins, talk with your administrators if you have any issues logging in. It's the same login information that you had when you went in to make your credentials with the county. If you have any issues, your administrators can tell you your username and your email you have on file. They cannot do anything with your password. You can practice on your current Chula Vista account. Please don't post anything to the hospitals or transfer anything to the base hospitals. We're going to clear your account before July 1st. So practice, play with runs. Hopefully they've updated it to make it have the situation tools and preset values. If not, soon we probably will. They might not be there right now, but learn how you want to use it so it's not a total surprise and impediment on patient care come July 1st. And then I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of a couple little things, a little mock radio report thing to show you how that works. And then Stephanie is going to do a real quick infers class. It's 10 minutes or less, I believe. And any questions on the PowerPoint section of it? Anything at all? Amazing. Quietest class. All right, did it go away? I can't see.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. If you work for multiple agencies, you'll get a drop down at the beginning. Just make sure you pick the right one. Okay, this is what it looks like when you come into a form. Again, you can only see ones that you're a part of a crew of. You cannot delete any practice runs that you have unless you're an administrator. Supervisors can't even delete, they can just unlock them. If you have any changes in your crew or you want to add an intern or whatever, you can add them for the day. Let's call this guy an intern. And you go in here and say they're an intern. If you want your intern to default to all of the procedures, you can say they're an intern and they're the primary care provider. Okay? For your unit and shift, the unit will always hold over. Shift, most people don't use. It has a scheduling feature. It does not talk to telestaff or anything like that, unfortunately. But it does have its own type of scheduler. No one really uses it. And then the medical device. It's just a filter. You can remove it from within the run. You can actually edit any of this stuff from within the run if it's different or if you find it to be different once you get in there. You know, you're halfway through the run and you figure out that you're actually on a different unit, you can change it inside, no issue. Or you have a different monitor. You can just come in, say you get a new monitor for the day, pick it out. All right. Create a new incident from CAD up here at the top. Hello. There it goes. A little slow. If your CAD is down for some reason, we all know CAD tends to go down once in a rare while, you can still create an incident at the bottom here without any CAD connectivity. But when you find a response that you were on, you can find it from within here, except for that our internet is going incredibly slow. There it is. So I can click and download this call I was on yesterday, and it will flow in there. I'm going to create an incident without using CAD. You can download CAD as many times as you want. So if you accidentally download the wrong one or download another unit, it's not going to throw any red flags. You just might have to change your filter for if it's been downloaded, yes, no, or both. Both will obviously show you both, and you'll see everything. All right, when you get into the run, it'll automatically fill out, based off your CAD download, your incident times that it has so far, and your run number. When you go through, this is that home page, and again, we're going to try to clean it up, make it a little more user-friendly with what it is. But it doesn't really flow as good as we would like, and we're going to remove some of the fields out of there to clean it up a little bit. But one thing that does live here is this add a chief complaint. This also is repeated somewhere else. Like I said, everything on this page is repeated. This is one of the most important fields for working with the base hospital. This populates at the top of their base hospital report on the very top. This really paints that picture of what call you're on. So be specific about what you're seeing and what your plan is here. And it will relate that to the MICN. And they'll ask less about what's going on. If you are not treating a chest pain for some reason, positive chest pain from dropping a dumbbell across their chest this morning. Positive increase on palpation. Negative shortness of breath. Throw your pertinent negatives in there. And that way they're less likely to try to get you to treat that chest pain for cardiac, because it's not just going to say chest pain. It's going to be more specific to what call you're actually on. Same thing with like your pertinent negatives. Make sure all your pertinent negatives are in there. So for this example, right hip pain post a ground level fall, negative blood thinners, negative LOC. You start writing those in there. They're not going to ask you those because they're populating right at the top of the report. The more you put in there for that modified report, the less they're going to ask you on the tail end. And this is a free text. You can write whatever you want, and it could be a paragraph long if you have the time and the motivation to write that. The duration of chief complaint field will populate some other stuff. It's kind of cool. You can say something like, say this fall happened 3 days ago. It's going to take the arrived at patient time that you have stamped, and it's going to automatically subtract your duration of chief complaint and put that as the onset of their symptoms. So I hit OK. It's going to come in for my assessment, estimated onset of symptoms, and it's now 3 days prior to my arrived at patient time. You can always change this if it's not accurate, right? But it's really cool if they've been having chest pain for 2 months. You don't need to sit there and figure out, let's see, today's the 25th, so 2 months ago would have been, you don't have to go through that. You can just use that feature and it'll do it for you. I'm going to go through the situation tools. And let's say this is a cardiac arrest. When you're working through a cardiac arrest in these panels, these are all of the anticipated things to see in a cardiac arrest. If you need to get out of here, there's no problem with leaving and coming back. And when I'm going through the drop downs up at the top, you can see it has my crew at the top, and then it'll have the rest of my agency at the bottom. But I can go through and say, all right, let's say my intern walked in and he went straight to compressions. And then he had me drop an OPA and start breathing for him. Okay, and then my partner then went over and went in to start doing the IV. We'll say he missed his first IV, IV unsuccessful, and then we'll say, okay, we got the second IV, we got a 16 gauge, whatever. And then off that we get a blood sugar. If the blood sugar is, I've done low every time, let's say it's normal this time. We got a blood sugar of 70, okay? It's going to pop up windows that require some sort of feedback. So like the blood sugar or the airway confirmation, they're going to pop up another menu for you to answer questions within it. If anything else is not going to open up any windows. It's just going to timestamp it and then do it behind the scenes. Okay, so we gave some epi. And then let's say we switched over to auto pulse. All right. So now I can go through and do any cleanup. And okay, so we have our compressions, and I have to answer that response. Did this improve their situation? Let's say, sure, we got pulses back at some point. We'll say it improved. Okay, I go through, answer what I can't, what it doesn't default. So what size equipment did I have? We used 90, and we got pulses back, so we'll say it improved. O2, they got better, and then my IV.
Sorry.
Yep.
Can you go back to the previous screen?
Absolutely.
So when you're toggling, you're now touching those reds in order for it to default to where you need to put the value. That's what's happening.
Yep. I'm going through that timeline up here, and anything that's red, I'm just kind of cleaning up what it wasn't able to answer, because it's not going to be able to answer certain things like the response or the site of the IV or the route in some situations. So when I click on this button, I go through my timeline, and it's the easiest way to get through it. There's other ways to do it. You can go through your interventions, and you can find it that way, and I'll show you that real quick. So I go to interventions, and then everything I did lives here, and I can go through these and find the same feature. But the easiest way I found is going through the timeline, and then clicking the arrow next to whichever ones are still red. It's a little tiny arrow on the right, and then it'll bring me into where I need to be. And then anything that I wasn't able to answer, it didn't automatically populate. It'll say this, so like the IV location, where was it? Let's say we got a EJ, left side, sure. And then I can go to my epi, and the only thing it's going to need is the response, and and the route that I gave it. Did I give it IV or IO? IV. And then we put the auto pulse on, and they got better. Then if I wanted to pull in some monitor data from that as well, to show my defibrillations or anything else I did, go in, grab my monitor data, and you can clear with that X any monitor data that you have. If say I'm not on Medic 11 anymore and I want to find a different monitor, I can go and look for that monitor. If I want to look for a specific date and time, say I'm getting QA'd and I forgot to attach it, I can go backwards in time and find one from, let's go back to May 2nd. There's a save that was halfway decent from Medic 11 that I can put in here. And based off how much stuff you did and how long, and then your internet connection, it might take 30 seconds to maybe a minute and a half to download. This one, I know they shocked the guy like I don't know, 4 times, maybe 5, 6 times. They got some code markers in there. They got a 12 lead, and they got some vital signs. So it takes a moment to download. And you can't really do anything while it's spinning around. It doesn't let you. So I try to click out of it, and you see it doesn't really let me. It's kind of stuck in the background downloading, and hopefully my internet doesn't have any issues. So by me clicking away, it might have caused a problem for it. I'm going to go to one that's more recent, because that call takes a little while to download. Oh, it still has it. Whatever. I guess I'll pull it in. So the EKG download comes in really, really nice. You just have to go through and clean up more stuff with your code markers than you would with the situation tools. And but it does keep track, and I wanted to bring this in to kind of show you how the two different things kind of work together. But unfortunately, you can't go through and keep answering stuff while it's downloading. And this call is a little bit of a long one. And then my connection is not the best right now. So bear with me. Hopefully it goes somewhat quick. And if the internet's struggling, I'll cancel out of it again. For the radio report, I'll touch on that real quick. You need to, you don't want to just start transferring this record to different hospitals. You want to make sure that you bring up your transfer button and you have your hospital selected, but you're not, you didn't transfer it until they're able to receive it. They acknowledge that they're able to take your call. And so how something like that would look is by saying, if I was trying to hail Palomar, I would bring up my current agents or the agency Palomar, and then I would have it ready to go. And as soon as they acknowledge that they're ready to receive, go ahead Medic 80. Then I would hit transfer and keep, and then I would start my report. I wouldn't send it or do anything before that. So here's all the call. I'm going to go through that radio report example, and then I'll kind of bring up a couple of these. But that shows you how it kind of brought in all of the information from that EKG. And then it timestamps everything. It has our code markers in there. I have to fill out more stuff with my code markers. It brings my 12 lead in. It looks super clean. And then it brings in the vitals that they got from after they had the pulses back. And so you can kind of see how it brings all that stuff in there. It has me defaulted right now as a primary caregiver. And it has that intern had both of us. It chose me, probably because I was the first crew member listed. So if you have more people defaulted as primary, it'll just pick whoever's probably first. So if I'm ready to give that radio report, so Palomar says go ahead. I am now going to say okay, transfer and keep. This is going to go through. The more information you have in here, the longer it's going to take to do that. Usually most calls, it's less than 30 seconds, the hospital has it. And I'm going to start Palomar Medic 80 arrived, Medic 80. We have a acute status medical post CPR with Ross. Incident number test 1234. Looking to go to Pomerado with a 10-minute ETA. And I'm going to let them know that that call was uploaded to them. If that's their cue to know to look to download it. So after you give them the run number, say however you want to word it, call has been uploaded to you, or we uploaded that call to you, but that's their cue to go in and download it on the other end. And while they're downloading it, you can go through with a brief backstory about what happened. And then during that time, hopefully they're able to review everything that they downloaded. And then you just let them know your ETA, and that should be the end of your radio report. So Medic 80, we arrived at scene to find our patient in CPR status. We went through 6 rounds, 4 shocks, and we were able to get pulses back. All of the current vital signs and treatment has been uploaded to you. You should be able to see that on your download. If we're going to Pomerado Hospital, we have about a 10-minute ETA. Do you have any questions? And then if they have anything, they could come back with, what was the blood sugar, or if I didn't put it in, or did you do whatever treatment, or they had whatever question they might have. But typically, when we're able to get a successful upload to them that's complete, we don't have any follow-up questions. And then they're just copy that, 10 minutes Pomerado, we'll let them know you're coming. And it's pretty simple. So that modified report is awesome. It's going to take some figuring it out down here, how to get it to work. When to do the transfers, when to upload it to the MICNs. Is it going to be the engine doing it? Is it going to be the box doing it? And it's always going to be different depending on what type of call it is. So it's going to take some working with it and some experience and playing to figure out which way works best for your agency. But once you start doing it, I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. It's nice to be able to do that modified radio report on almost every call and not have to give a lengthy radio report, but always be ready to back up with a full radio report if for some reason technology failed or it messed up. The other thing I was going to show you is the narrative. It has a auto narrative feature. And if you have your disposition, let's say we transported this person, and I wrote in with the transporting unit, okay, and then I go into my narrative and build my template. It'll populate any of the treatment, and then it's going to say my disposition. And if it had the unit number filled out, anything that was not filled out will not populate, but certain things will come in here, like the transporting unit number, the destination, things of that nature will come in here, and any of your treatment will come in. And then it's up to you to fill out any of the blanks from within that template. So for your incident, chief complaint, history, and assessment, when we were first doing this, it had more information coming across, like your incident information for like what type of incident, the response information and stuff. And it filled out a very lengthy report, and it made people kind of type less. And so a template we found to be the best. And I think you guys are going to do something very similar, where you get this template, it brings in everything. So go fill everything else out first, and then load your template, and you'll have less to document on your iChart, on your narrative. All right, I think that is pretty much the majority of the things I wanted to show you. on how the report flows. Did you guys have any questions? Anything you wanted to see from within the report? I know playing with it is going to be absolutely the best way to figure it out, and me talking is not the best way. So, good? All right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie. I work in admin. Most of you probably have gotten the emails from me concerning water. That's going to be moving into now image trend. So today I'm going to show you the new incident module, so to speak, for image trend. This is only going to take me about 10 minutes. I'm going to be super quick. So for infers, you have one of two options. If you are completing the PCR, then there is a button within. Let me go back up here. So if you go up to incidents and you go to EMS, there we go. So if you open up a PCR, there we go. So down here there's this little button, and if you click on this, then it will take you directly, and then this little arrow, and it will take you directly into the infers. So you can complete one and then the other. If you're not doing the PCR, then up here at incidents, you're going to click fire. It should automatically show up in your list as soon as the PCR is started. Okay? If it hasn't been loaded here, then you just go up here, click new, and then download from CAD. And I'll show you that button in a second so it doesn't slow things down. But if you click new and then download from CAD, and then you can complete the infers. I'm just going to open up one in here that kind of started. So if it is in the list, you just click the arrow. It loads. It's more of a scrolling, everything kind of scrolls down, right, for all the different fields instead of being able to see everything in one shot. And so it's all the same fields that you're used to, same as from, water, from Firehouse, same fields, same options. So you scroll down, click next, right? And so then you've got your location data. And so this is the one of a couple fields, I think, that you might have to help us out with in the beginning. We're trying to get this to download from CAD, but it might take us a little bit. So here you're going to pick whether it's a street address, intersection, so forth. Scrolling through next. Here's going to be all your times. And as you can tell, it's going through, right, your navigation on the side. So you can use the next button, or you can go back and forth using any of these panels, okay? So property use, you're used to completing that one. Here's property losses and content loss. If it's red, right, required, this yellow means it's optional, okay? And then summary, this primary narrative is going to go away because we do unit narratives. But here, this panel is where you're going to find the CAD nodes. So if you need to check that for anything. Lastly, on this section is the authorizations, which you're also familiar with, right? Member making and officer in charge. Down here in the bottom right corner is your apparatus. This is where you're going to find all of the different units. You're going to click Edit Apparatus. This is going to, same fields, you're just a different look, right? Scrolling down your times and then your narrative. We're working on a lot of the rules still for this software. So in the beginning, it might not tell you that it's required to do a narrative for non-medical, but policy-wise, it's required to do the narrative, right? So, if even though it doesn't remind you, please make sure that you're completing your narratives when needed. I'm going to cancel out of this. Here also is where you can edit your personnel. There's nothing in here right now, but it will be there at the end of today. But there will be a list in here so you can swap people in and out if you need to. And then I'm going to go back to details. So a couple things that have changed. So those of you who have been with us since the firehouse days, the incident types had a 3-digit code. So 111 was a building fire, 322 was a vehicle accident, 611 was a canceled en route. So those codes are coming back. So here when you click on incident type for your find value, you can type in the number or you can type in whatever word of what you're looking for, so vehicle accident. So you can use either one. I will be sending out this week a list of all of the incident types with their codes so that you have that as a reference. You'll find the most common ones you're going to remember pretty quickly, and it'll speed up the process. Another thing, also for incident types, all of the EMS, there's 10 of them, right? You have EMS, cardiac, respiratory, so forth. Those are all going away and they're being collapsed in just one EMS call. So it's a 321, okay? So you don't have to pick and choose between the 10. The PCR covers all of the extra information that we need, okay? And then here the primary actions taken, they separate it out so you can enter in one for the primary, and then for your additional, you can add in however many you like. And it's true here as well as for the unit actions taken. Okay, questions? Yes?
Does this interface, I'm assuming, there's a mobile version, it looks exactly the same?
You're going to use this, or you're going to use what they call Elite Field. And Elite Field is the one that basically is for the PCR. But it will lead, like I showed you, has that button, and it will link directly to this. They look pretty much identical, but you can't get to, at least I haven't found, how you can get to the incident on the field without going through a PCR. So for the incident reports, you need to go through Elite Web. So you'll just have 2 separate icons on your devices. So the web will be for your infers for the most part, but it will also, and then Elite Field will be for your PCRs.
Is it web-based or is it an app? Web-based?
They're web-based.
Okay. Because I know me individually, I know some people do it on personal. Like I have my own iPad for the rig, for work. It's essentially just a hyperlink I can still do.
Yeah, so Matt's going to go over this too, but there is, the only thing that concerns me is the attachments. So if you're taking photos, make sure that you're taking photos through whichever app you're using, whether it's the web or the field. I can't think of that. Just so that when you take the pictures, it only applies to the report and it doesn't save it on your personal device.
I'm also talking about just pictures.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I don't know that it matters. I guess we can take that up with the chiefs. I don't think there should be a problem. You guys can access water on your personal devices too, so it's the same thing. But there will be 2 different, the Elite Field and then the Elite Web will be your 2 different versions. Any other questions? Nope. Okay. You'll be getting some emails, obviously, from me over the next month or so. And if you have questions, you know where to find me.
So he covered all of these things, all the capabilities of this program, and you see that it does a lot of things. But the only way that you're going to be able to master it is going in there and just doing it, treating it like it's a video game, that you're trying to get the highest score, trying to make all those red things go away, and every time you hit one of those red things and you answer the question, your score gets higher, and it keeps climbing, climbing, climbing. So really, you just have to get in there and do it. You have the opportunity to practice before we go live on the 1st, going to the county website or on your device, either one, and go in there. You can pretend like you're doing a run. On go live date, which is July 1, we're going to have a group of people that are trained at a higher level that have experience with image trend. They're super users, and they're going to be helping with the rollout. So for 24 hours, A, B, C, the first days, there will be a helpline that you can call and talk to somebody, FaceTime, and walk you through it, whatever it is. You're not going to be left out there trying to figure it out. But the best way to do it really is just get in there and start playing with it, make those red go away.